Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's doing really good. It's been a while. Um, I'm thinking as I gather here my brush right here. I got my paper, my paints, my water, my tissue or napkins, um, and a pencil. Today we're gonna use a pencil. Um, Thinking if in one opportunity in the future I may show you just a little bit of the camera and maybe around, not too much. Just so you understand how my the rest of my desk look. I know you only see this part of my videos, but I'm working towards showing a little more, maybe myself. But yeah, ready to do more paintings. I hope everybody's feeling good, healthy, enjoying the weather. Um, and we're gonna start very soon. I'll tell you all about why the title is Summer Sun, or Sunlight, Summer Light. Um, we're gonna do a painting, and we're gonna purposely, which we've done before, but we haven't 100% um, focused just on this. The fact that we're gonna just deal with very very light colors throughout the entire work. That way, they all are harmonious in tone, and that lightness, um, for what we represent, especially outside, just kind of means or is equal to uh, being very sunny. Okay, so just like when you look outside and it's very sunny, um, and you're not really looking at the sun directly, but things are very bright and the sun reflects on things. Things tend to look lighter, but it's just because more than color is actually light shining back to your eyes, which is um, blindly. Sometimes you need sunglasses. That's why we wear sunglasses and stuff. But everything turns very bright and light, so the color dissipates, and the lightness of 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 light hits your eye. Um, so I say light scientifically, right? Like actual light, like looking at a light bulb, or not looking at the sun. We should never look at the sun directly. It hurt. Um, but okay, so if you represent a patio or a park or grass outside, and it's but everything has to come out being very bright. Then the message is that if you add some maybe shadows here and there, then that emphasizes that that's what it is. But let's get started. All right, so the pencil is to draw what we're going to do, and then we're going to draw it also afterward in with the brush. Okay, and I'll talk about the fact that drawing it in the pencil in this case, if you personally, when you do your work, you could skip that step and go straight and draw it with the brush. You could do that. Okay, you could do that. But the pencil always gives us like a head start and gives us more security into what is it that we're going to do. Again, I have said this before, when you draw with pencil for watercolors, you have to be careful not to make it too dark or hard. It's just for yourself to know where things are. So, because that pencil is gonna stay on the painting. Okay, once you're done, you could actually gonna be able to see the pencil marks. And if you go to a museum and you see watercolors, paintings of artists, you more likely see those pencil marks too. Um, they're not meant to be erased afterwards because you could affect the painting afterwards. I have said this many times before. So let's get started. I might do it a little darker than what I just said should be done, like because I need to make sure that you see it at in the through the camera. Okay, so very simple. I'll have a path. So we're gonna kind of establish a horizon, but I'm gonna not do it. By the way, our paper is maybe 8 by 11. It could be 9 by 12. In a horizontal setup, or landscape like this. So talking about horizontal, I'll divide my paper in top and bottom through a line right in the middle. But before I do it right in the middle, I'm gonna mark where my middle is, which is around here visually. Um, it's like around here. And I'm gonna raise it up a little. I haven't drawn the line. I haven't drawn the line. I'm gonna raise that a little up to here, maybe 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and then I'm gonna draw my line. So it's not really the middle. It's like 2 inches above the middle. The middle will be around here. You know what? We could probably do the middle. Let's do the middle too, and I'll tell you why later. Because this is gonna become a fence. So now I have this bar here that is like a fence in the back. And remember how when we used to draw, we did paintings, but when we did some videos about drawing, I will make you in perspective like a path. And the way we would do a path or a river either was making like this kind of Z pattern, like look, like the letters Z, very elongated. And then the next time we'll go like this, wider. So it's like a letter S backwards, which is the letter Z. But I go and make my letter Z very wide. You see, it's not like this. Let me show you what I mean. If I find a piece of paper, it's not like just a regular Z, but a more elongated. Um, and then the second one, to create that thickness of the width of the path or river. In this case, is a path. Then the next one, I keep far closer to us, and um, farther the lines farther from each other, closer to us, and farther away from us. We put them together, and that creates the distance. Okay, and that's it. If you can see, I'm gonna make it darker. One line. Again, it shouldn't be this dark. This is something my work will be. I cannot do anything about it. But you please don't draw your lines dark, like a regular, like if you're writing with a pencil normally, right? Please make the habit of working lightly. Um, so you should you should have that control by now, at least, of pressure. Um, I'm making it darker, just like I said, because it needs to be seen in the video. Um, yeah. So maybe, well, not maybe. This side to my left is gonna be full of trees in the back of the fence. Um, this is why we don't make the lines too dark, but I'm gonna have to erase before putting the paint, because it's too strong, the line, for me to draw over it, something that's on top of it. But if you do it lightly, you don't have to worry about that. Um, so there'll be, look, I'm making circles like masses of bushes and trees, maybe coming up here, trunks. So you have to erase a little, but you don't have to erase if you made it lightly, okay? If the lines still be seen, it's okay. I mean, um, but I have to erase because I made my line too dark. Sorry, it's just very confusing for me because I'm not used to do the drawing this dark. Um, but yeah, this whole left side will have flowers closer to us here, maybe trees back here covering the fence. We want to hide. You see the point where the lines meet? These two lines meet. We want to hide that point, the point where they meet right here. We want to cover that. Maybe one plant is kind of like a cactus type pointy. I don't know. We could do a lot of this stuff with the brush later, you know. Um, Maybe there's some trunks of trees coming out. I don't want to emphasize this too much. We could do it with the brush and the paint and trees up here. But you get the idea. You see, so you know, what I mean when we draw for watercolors and I say it's for you, it's literally just for you, the artist. This is not for the viewer to see. So that's why you draw it very, very lightly because it's for you to give you an idea of where things are going to be. Um, Obviously, most of the time when we draw with a pencil, we draw for you, obviously the artist, and the viewer because it's a drawing, right? When we paint for everybody. But sometimes we do things that are for our process of art creation. You maybe do an underpainting that you do, and then you paint over it. Uh, and that underpainting help you build your painting or see where things are going to be, give them a base for color. So those things are part of the process that is just for you, the artist. So this is what I mean by this pencil process. It's for you, the artist. See where things are going to be. So as long as you get the idea, this is very personal. It's your call of where things are going to be, then you're okay. So, for example, I'm good with this. I know these trunks are going to have uh, branches, not leaves up here, and I'm going to do them with color. But if you need to see that, right, over there at home watching the video, then you draw those to see them better, to visualize them better. If you need more drawings of plants over here, then you do that. This is gonna be filled with plants. It looks empty now. But I personally, myself, Antonio, I don't have to draw each plant yet. Yet. I'll paint them later. But I don't have to draw each one because I can see it personally. But you may need to see. So I want you to be true to yourself and um, honest and draw what you need to visualize. Okay, this I want you to take ownership of your work, and this is your work, what's in front of you at your desk. So yes, you're copying what I'm doing, but at the same time, at this stage right now, um, uh, what we have here is a path, a fence in the back. Maybe a little bit of the sky is going to be seen here to the top right, but this will be full of plants and the trees here to the left. So I want you to visualize that, look at it, see it, visualize it in your paper, and according to that, draw what you need to see now that you're going to build on. And then also be honest to the things you do not have to draw that you know or you get the feeling that you could do with paint and you don't have to specifically have it in detail by pencil. Does that make sense? So that okay. Maybe I could have. Maybe there's a stage later um, on your own time, where you put a piece of paper in front of you. You look at it, right, and you need less pencil. Only you may need the lines of the fence to get your image in your head. And there'll be a time, right, where you may not have to draw. We have done many paintings where we don't use our pencil and we just go and paint. You're copying me or you're copying the video, but I personally don't need to draw what I'm going to paint, right? Okay, so this is just as much part of the process as when you put paint. Okay, if you notice, for artists, watercolor artists, Sergeant, Homer, if they use drawing, they get big chunk of things, right? This is where the house is going to be. This is where the tree is going to be. Then later they obviously paint more details about it. If it's a figure, a person, or it has shadows, right? One side has a shadow, one side of the nose, or those things get drawn kind of likely because those are really hard to visualize out of the top of your head, right? You're looking at a face, and you need to draw where things are going to be of that specific person. Okay, great. So let's get started. We always build up. In this case, we're not going to emphasize too much the dark colors at the end because we're going to try to keep everything very light, and that's what's going to make the image be very sunny or summerly. Another thing I want to emphasize is the paper, the white of the paper. We're going to leave a little bit of that at times. And let's see how it goes. So very simple for the sky. You know what? Before we do the sky, let's get started with a little wash of the ground, the green on the ground. And I'll explain you why I'm not doing the sky right away. There'll be things over here in the trees and things that the blue of the sky can kind of go through. I may have to pick colors from my other watercolors because I'm running out, as you can see. Okay. So that's very bright yellow, so I have to spread it. Sorry. I know at home it's hard to see. But it's kind of like a wash. So if that it may come up on the video a little darker than what it actually is. I have always said that about watercolors, photographs or videos. I don't give them the right representation because a lot of the effect is through our eyes and the paper, and a camera or a video cannot really capture that. A camera and a video just do solid colors, right? there's not that plate of actual light going through our eyes. And that's what the watercolor is the transparency is what I mean, the transparency of that brightness of the paper. Okay, so yeah, it's just a little, I know you can barely see it, but look, there's a little yellow greenish kind of set there. So I'm gonna with green, very light again, kind of define some of the things we spoke about. So remember this drawing of the bushes? I'm gonna kind of lightly make sure that the colors, that's the whole point of the painting today, are light. So I'm going over what I have already drawn, but maybe add a few more. Um, and I'm watering my colors a lot. So if you notice, I'm not picking it straight from here. I put it to the side and I add color. Here's our pointy kind of cactus. Maybe another one here. You see that we didn't draw. Maybe another one here. Um, something. So I'm gonna do something in a moment with another. Well, eventually with another color that is not green, kind of like pink or something to emphasize some maybe flowers or part of the plant. But this is what I meant by having the pencil very lightly. What I have in front of me is not lightly, so it will not be entirely, the lines will still be seen. But if you drew your light, the pencil, then you're all set. You're fine. You don't have to worry about. But just letting you know that the effect is not as meant to if we drew our lines this hard like I did here. But I did them like this again. I keep repeating myself for you at home to be able to see through the video. Um, let's put more bushes back here. Keep the color light by adding water. Shapes of like not round but kind of bulky things, and you could put the color in between other things you already kind of drew. It looks messy, but in that mess, I'm drawing some plants. Look, there's a circle, not a circle, like a round shape. Um, some of them go over the line here, so this is what I mean, that the line will still be seen, but that ideally you don't want that if you drew lightly, because these things are on top of this line. Here the line is on top of this, right? Because it's in front of us. But here the line is behind the things that we're going to put here on top. Same thing, same thing over here. Okay. Okay. Um, the leaves, remember that I mentioned these masses are up here. So this is, remember I said I wouldn't have the need to draw them because with the brush, look, I'm drawing with the brush. So here's a mass, here's another mass behind this one of a tree, another one up here. And the cool thing, this is what I didn't do the sky first. Okay, hear me out. Because when I do the sky after I we build these things, um, this part of the blue of the sky can kind of get in between these trees a little if it's seen, and mainly, right, the second reason is because we want to leave little gaps of the white paper to create more the light effect that our painting is very bright and sunny. Did you see? Did you capture? Now, sorry, you are at home on the other side of the video. You see now the image much better. Now we're all set, right? Now, for example, we'll do with the fencing of that little light brown. We'll do the panels of wood by making strikes like that. This will be a very good example of what I mean by not doing the base of sky or things behind and then do the wood on top. Because then, right, when I do those panels of wood, you'll see that there's gaps between them, and those gaps are white and emphasizes the brightness. And then we'll play with the panels, making them some of them like a little darker in some parts. And we have already. Let me bring this up again too. We have already learned the importance of enriching your colors with other colors. So, for example, with these greens we're going to build now, you kind of see the same green, right? This is because we're just in the stage of drawing. But as I build some of these things, I may make the same green a little lighter, and I will make the same green a little darker at times. And just that playfulness enriches our paint. Um, okay, that's very, very important in watercolor and make things more real and more rich. And actually, it's very easy to do in watercolor because it's just one step of adding more water or not adding more water to the color. And just by that, you have a variety of colors. In acrylic or oil, you actually have to mix that color, right? You have to create that color, put it down, and get another color and put it down. With watercolor, it's the same color, just the different amount of water creates almost different colors because their tonality changes. Um, okay, so this we're doing our trees. I think we're good at the second stage of drawing. This is kind of like drawing, but with the paint. I want to leave this. Let me talk here a little bit about composition. I wanted to leave this here to the right a little more open, kind of like a field. And this goes back to um, this could have been on this side too. Yeah, fine. But usually visually you go from left to right, right? And in this case it's kind of open ended towards us, the road it is and the field it is. um, and it helps us also over here to cover the 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 perspectives of this path kind of hiding away and going away. If we have put all this stuff to the right, then what it actually does is it visually kind of stops us, which is okay, fine too, but it's a little more stronger, the effect. If this was over here to the right, it's a little more, it's fine composition wise, but just be aware that it's a little more not shocking, but a little more stronger visually because our eye go boom and it stops. But in this case right now, it's a little more open, which kind of goes with the theme of light, summer, softness, right? So your eye kind of dissipates and goes away. But it will go back, your eye will return because he wants to play around here and see what's happening here. Think of your eyes, even though you don't consciously think about it. Think of it as a trip, as a travel. As they're traveling, they're taking a trip, they're taking a tour, and you cannot control them. Your eyes are going to go in that tour and move around according to the composition. If the composition is harmonious, your eyes are going to have a good time just moving around. If the composition is not harmonious, unbalanced, which doesn't mean it's wrong, right? That may be what you want to cause. Just be aware that your eyes are going to be a little more uncomfortable, moving around, trying to find out where things are, a little bit all over the place. They don't move smoothly, but that may be the effect we want to cause, a little more shocking. Um, so there's no right or wrong composition. It's just about how we feel about what we see. Okay. Um, let's get started putting actual bodies of color here. So now I'm filling them in. Um, and I could actually, you know what? Let me show you something. I could actually do the fence. And as we do the fence, now that I see everything, I could leave the gaps of things. That's a little darker for our painting. So we could pick up some of that. You see how we start kind of filling in? Maybe that one is a mask. Maybe it's some grass, pointy. Look, pointy sticking out over here. Maybe it's a filled up massive bush. Same thing with the trees. Add a little bit of maybe blue to your green, or maybe a little bit of yellow to your green. You see, it's filled in, but there's some room for colors. So I'm going to do it on this one a lot. I don't want to do this big one just like the others. So I'm going to leave a little more gaps, you see. Um, and maybe I could add some more emphasized blue in some areas. That's maybe too dark. And have fun. Just filling around, filled up, but don't get in one that place and fill the whole thing that's in color. The whole idea is to build your layers of different colors. So now we put another color. Now watch. This one is gonna be more yellowish. It's this green, but you see this kind of line, yellowish. Now remember, I'm adding water because I want to make it transparent. See that yellowish? So maybe that goes in some areas over here. Maybe I could do some patches in the field over here of that yellow, more emphasized. Okay. I made some patches in the field that are more darker than others, you see? And that again goes back to my point of making things a little more richer by diversifying the colors. So it's the same green, I added a little bit of yellow. Maybe the same green, I add a little bit of blue. Now be careful with the blue because the blue has a darker tone than yellow. So when you add the blue to make your green a little more bluish, you're gonna maybe need a little bit of more water to not make the blue so strong where um where the color is too opaque. Okay, because the point of the painting is not to do that, is to do um the opposite, to make things lighter. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my, we could do the trunks of the tree bluer, lighter blue. You see, remember the trunks we drew? So now I can paint them and maybe do some branches. Look, um, so between this green I could add a little bit of light blue to emphasize branches that are coming out of the trees. Okay, let's do this fence to show you quickly. So it's brown, right? I'm grabbing my brown. If you don't have brown, you can create brown. I have shown you this before, out of literally the three primary colors. So red, yellow, and blue create brown. And then test it and then see if it needs a little more red, okay, to kind of give it that brownish highlight. So now I'm adding a little water to make my brown lighter. And then I'm going to test by, yep, look how light, maybe a little more lighter. So I do a panel and I do another panel right next to it. Later, we could add more brown to some areas to differentiate, but for now, let's do these panels of wood. That should be kind of this thickness, maybe like a quarter of an inch or almost half an inch, 1/3 of an inch. And not always they will be separated, okay? Maybe in some areas they touch and they come together. But let's keep them, the key is light. And you see how now I don't do the whole panel because there's supposed to be greens back under here. Now the little gaps that I see, you see what I meant? And if, believe it or not, we're leaving the whiteness of the paper to be seen. You see how light that is? And now picture it for a second. Just because it's light like this, the colors makes the painting look like if it's summery. So now I added a little bit of more brown. That's a lot. And I'm going to go and fill some areas of our panels darker than others. To kind of diversify things around a little. If a brush stroke you put down is too dark with the brown, if it's very, very dark, then try to pick it up, you know. But if it's not too dark and you can grab it and spread it to the other panels next to it, do that. Um, Now imagine my line that I drew was lighter. Then, right, this is my point that I was talking earlier. Then you don't see the line that emphasized and things are a little more smoother or more nicer. That's pretty dark over here. So you see I can pick it up or put it together with another. If there's too many gaps of white, just fill them in because we want those gaps, but we don't want too many of them, right? It is a fence after all, and it needs to be sealing or protecting our view. So this could be very dark, so you could always clean the brush and pick up some of that color up. Okay. And we're building with our colors. So now I still get my greens, bushes. Now I want to cover very lightly with kind of like a light brown, just that same brown, very lightly. Oh, that's not brown. That became green. Let's grab just brown. Um, very lightly. The road, the path, our path. Okay. Very lightly. Very lightly. See, now our path is filled, and I can actually take a little darker brown and create some horizontal lines. What do horizontal lines do to our field or our ground or our floor? It grounds them a little because the ground we know is horizontal. So just by me making these few lines in the curvy path that actually comes down like this, I'm grounding our path a little better. You see the path from being all filled now take this little picture. So now I'm gonna get red, but it's not really red. It's gonna be a very watered down red, which becomes pink, because light up red is pink. Pink is really red. You know, the color pink is the color red. It's just that it's being either white has been added to it or has been lighted. So a lighter red, it's pink. And then let's see. Oh, that's pretty bright. It's almost like the brown. So this I should have done a little earlier, because to do this little dots and path, we wanted the white paper. So I'm putting dots, and when those dots dry, they should make a mark. You see, I'm not brushing it in because I know when this dries, it will dry like that, like if it's little spots, if that makes sense. So each one of these dots, and it will light up, sorry, and it will dry up way much lighter than what you see, okay? So if you see these very red, once the water, once it dries, it will be lighter. But it gives you kind of like the effect of kind of that these are flowers, but very lightly done. Maybe some here or in between this, there's some reddish, or this bush is red, and I could mix that green with the red at the edge right there. Yeah, just keep building on top, on top. Just be careful not to add a tone that is too dark, where the whole picture kind of gets unbalanced. If you notice, the whole picture so far keeps a kind of tone to it. Something I'm gonna do, instead of green, a green that is bluish, is actually get pure blue, um, and paint with that. But it's not pure blue because it's light. It's like the sky we're gonna do in a moment. So this is blue, but I'm gonna keep add water. You see, to make it. Let's see, lighter. It's a blue, but it's a lighter blue with no green. So some areas of our painting will have. And not don't do everything also all filled in, like filled in. Do like, for example, we fill this here with light green, right? Look, this mass is filled in, right? But I could go back here with the yellowish green, and rather than filling it in again, do some brush strokes to create some type of to break apart that filling in. It's, kind of like create texture. I'm getting with the blue. um, it's light blue, but I know that blue also carries a darker tone even when light. So I'm putting it, if you notice, between where we drew, kind of like defining those outlines of things, because I know that's what blue kind of does, or the edges of things, or the outline, or or down here. But I know that it's pure. Sorry, it hasn't been mixed with green or anything. It's more blue. Our branches were made out of blue. I remember. Maybe our path over here gets a little darker tone. Okay, so you see we keep building and building and building. Um, hmm. Here I dissipate this green, like I let it in. And yeah, with now that we're with blue, keep it light. Keep it light with the water. Get the blue, but add water to it, because now we're gonna give it a little wash in the sky. And if your blue you put down is too blue, too dark, leave it, but then add more water to it. You see, now I'm grabbing water to spread this blue in the sky. Yep, filling our sky. I know I personally am very tempted to give darker tones, and I'll tell you why. Because the darker tones make things pop out and makes things also more defined and more rich. But this is not that painting. Okay, we want to emphasize in this painting that everything is very light, because it's summerly and it's kind of blinding us. The sunlight that gets reflected by everything. Does that? I hope I keep making sense on that. Um, and the fact that here and there we let the paper go through, um, emphasizes that clarity of light and brightness. Again, imagine that my lines of drawings weren't that strong, right? If they were not that strong, they will still be there. But um, perhaps the painting would have been a little more smoother, because we don't have to see those dark pencil lines. Sometimes when we put down our color, like I'm doing right now, and it's very wet, we see a rich color, but as the painter that is rich because it's very wet. So you know that once that dries, it will be a little more lighter. So that's what we were doing here with the flowers, remember, and maybe with the blue that I'm putting down now. Even though it looks very dark, you see that? Once that dries, it becomes maybe 50% of that darkness. I know that because it's very wet. It's very wet. You see the wetness? How much water there is in that? If it wasn't that wet, then I will know that that's the color. That's the color that's gonna more likely be. So this what I'm doing of putting this blue in this kind of high, darker areas. You see that dark blue, but I know that it's not that dark once it dries. So it's just to help us kind of visualize as we go through the process. It's really cool. You see it there in the video shining because of the light, but yeah, no, don't worry. Okay. Yeah, you see, it looks very dark, but it's actually not. Don't worry about it. Maybe over here at the edge of this line, I could add some of that blue that's gonna light up and make it edgy, not a straight line. See that? And it helps us see the edge of the path. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna maybe, I don't know if the light helps. Um, there you go. The emphasis of the light source that I have. You know what I mean? Like that. Compare. And actually, if you see a shadow like that, that's my hand. You see my arm over it. So let's test a few of the views. So we have this. We have brighter. When I put my light brighter, and don't worry about that blue again. Like I said, this needs to dry. You see how it shines? That blue there shines. It shines, but eventually will dry. And trust me, once it dries, it becomes much lighter. So you are the artist, and you have to, with experience, the more you do this, understand these things. Oh, that looks darker and it's blue. Um, but I don't have to worry about because I'm aware that that needs to dry. Sorry, let it get focused. It's gonna get focused in a second right there. That needs to dry, and I know that once it dries, it will become lighter. While if I put blue, less wet, same tone, then that's a color that actually is going to be a little more darker because it has less water. Okay. Um, so a lot of the watercolor confidence we get as watercolor artists comes from painting more, painting more, painting more, because you get to understand how water behaves. That's really what it is. A lot of people that are a little concerned or afraid of watercolor um, is not being familiar of the effects that the water are going to cause, and you can only get that through playing around with watercolor. So it's about doing a little more painting. um, I think anything we try for the first time, I'm not saying we're not going to be good at it, but we'll be better at it the more we do it. So um, and when we paint acrylic, and we want the paint to do something, it will do that. Watercolor may not do that on our first try, um, because water is a little more tricky to manage. But just doing a little more paintings, doing a little more paintings, doing a little more paintings, you understand what your brush carries, right? Does it carries more pigment? Does it carries more water? Um, do I need more water rather than pigment next time? Um, you know, when little things like that. When the paper is wet and I put the color, what does it do? Rather than putting the color straight on dry paper, we have learned that already about wet on dry, which is on dry paper, or wet on wet, which is wet paint on um, a wet paper. Um, Usually, the effects more likely watercolors tend to do are wet on wet, right? The paper is a little wet um, sometimes. So even what we have built here, let me give you an example. What we have built this here, the paper was dry, yes, but we painted, right, and the paper that then got wet and kept on working on top of it. So that second time we kept on painting around, did became kind of wet on wet in a sense, you know. Okay, but if we wait too long, like maybe right now, then then things will dry up. If the color is drying up and not doing or behaving, you see I can still pick it up because it's still wet with my finger. I'm just pushing my finger down to make that process a little faster, and now it's all dry. You see I just picked up the wetness of the so now it's all dry. um um oh yeah, so this is bright, more bright, more bright, more bright, more bright, more bright. um I'm gonna actually try to, let's see if I can, which I always tell you I want to do this, put a background to it that is dark. So bear with me here. Let's see how this is gonna look now that the background uh, is darker. I'm gonna put my paints away. Um, Bear with me. This wasn't planned, but it might work. Visualizing this. Okay. It's not exactly dark, dark. It is a dark shirt, but the light makes it. Um, and you see how now the painting is a little more clear to be seen. So now we're gonna play around. So this is very bright. You see what I meant? So this is our painting. And again, I assure you, my colors here are a little more transparent and playful to my eye. Um, but we kept in this painting everything purposely very light. If you see contrast of very of opaque, not opaque, dark tones, you could still fix it. You could take a clean brush, wet it, and kind of pick up the excess of color there. If you take too much, then put a little bit back. Um, okay, so this is what I mean. If you see something in your painting that really stands out, because look, it's very dark like that, some areas, then you take a brush clean, wet it. Well, that's still wet because I just put it there. But if it was dried, it will also work. And then you go with your brush and you pick that up, pick it up, put it on your tissue, pick it up, put it on your tissue, pick it up until you um, get rid of that dark tone, because the painting is not about that. Remember, I just told you that I could easily define things a little more with a darker tone and enrich them, but that wasn't the point of this painting. It was to create this transparency and very, very light colors all over it. All over it, meaning working in all of it at the same time. I'm gonna darken. I'm sorry. I'm gonna give. That's pretty bright right here at this point. This is as bright as my light can go. I'm gonna tone down the light source slowly, just to show you how the painting changes. Because the camera focuses and starts to look for um, changes. Yeah, this is that's as less light as I can do. Something I can also do is cast a shadow from my other light source. You see, like my head right now is doing. So I could do this. Where is it? Right here, and that is a little more darker than if I don't cover it like that. But yeah, um, this is very important. You know, if you go, I have said this before, if you go to a museum, you rarely not gonna see watercolors on the walls, permanent in a permanent collection. If you do, the room more likely will be very kind of dim. Will have dim lights. Watercolor is very sensitive to light. Um, the color gets affected by the light, and it can easily faster change. Um, so usually in temporary, not permanent, in temporary shows, you will see watercolors, right? You know that in a show that, like, I don't know, if it goes for 3 months or 4 months, and then again, still the room will be lighter. It's a shame because the work should be seen with more light, but it's true that it does get affected by the light, and we want our work to last longer in museums. So when you see a painting, this is my point. When you see a painting in a museum, or especially in a museum, just think about that. It should be seen with brighter light. Um, that's how the artist did it when he did the work. Right? He didn't do it in a dark room, but it's showcased in a dark room to protect it, and it's not showcased at all and kept in storage to protect it, so you don't see that many watercolors in view. On that note, galleries. So galleries are a different story. Galleries, meaning local galleries that showcase artists that are trying to sell their work, or past artists too. But more likely present artists. So a gallery will show you watercolors, right? But great. So if you're in the Boston area and you get to go to Isabella Gardner Museum, there's a few watercolors around, especially on the first floor in one of her small rooms, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That room is it's probably like one of the darkest rooms, very dim light, and the windows obviously are protected. Um, and I still think they it's a little challenging for the work, that setting, but that's how she wished to be showcased, and it's how it is presently, because that's what her wish. But yeah, I'm ranting. Just a note to understand the nature of watercolors. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the painting. You could wash it and do it again. You could enrich the colors. You could put colorful flowers. Now, if you make your flowers, if you try to do purplish or reddish flowers, just understand that we want those colors to be very watered down so they're lighter. And just because of that, once you do that, your painting will still become what we see here, which is more monotone and a little more monotone, meaning even though we see different colors, they're in the same tonality, same level of brightness. Um, and that's what we wanted, right? Because we wanted that sunny effect. This is a very sunny scene in the summer and bright. So yeah, as I was saying, you could do this painting again, or you can do a different setting, but the same effect of using light colors. So you could have not the fence, the field, not the path. Maybe you put a bench here, some birds eating in the ground. I don't know. It's a different setting, but it's the same style of lighter colors. And to be honest, there's a lot of artists in watercolor artists that do their paintings this way because watercolor is easy to it helps itself to be done like this by watering down the colors to make them lighter. I hope you enjoy and learn from my ranting and my talking. And it's as helpful as when we actually paint. I know I talk a lot and you see just the screen. But yeah, let me show you closer a few of the parts. And yeah, you could sign it either side. And this is it. So this is the top left focus. You see those blue light lines that I make kind of like defining kind of branches here and there. Take note of the white of the paper we left in gaps. It helps us to keep the painting brighter. That's the top left. That's the top right, which is just sky. Then here's our middle, our right part of the fence. And again, imagine if my lines of pencil weren't this dark. It's okay if they were there, but not this dark. Then our painting will be a little more gentle to our eye. This is the middle and left of the messy bushes and rocks. It could even be rocks and plants and trees. You see what I said about these little dots of red pretending to be flowers? I told you they will dry, and once they dry, they become lighter than what it looked like. This is our left side. This is our left side bottom. Same thing down here with the dots that represent the flowers. And again, imagine my lines of pencil not being this dark. I hope you did yours lighter. This is our path. And if you notice, I made with the blue a little edge on the path on one of the sides, especially the side that we're looking at when it meets the ground. This side over here also does that, but it's more likely that the grass is a little on top of the ground, and over here the ground is before the grass, so that's why I did it on this side. But anyway, you understand visually what's happening. Yeah, great. So we never know exactly how our work will end up at the end, but the more you have control of the idea of what you want to represent, the better. Okay, you never have the whole picture of the end results, but understanding what you want to get out of it is very important. And I established that at the beginning, and here it is. Okay, stay safe. Thank you. Keep painting. Uh, yeah, we get better by keep doing what we love. Have a great weekend and rest of the week. Any time of the week you watch this, and um, I'll see you soon.